Now, it became a point, right, when the people that I was coming up with started getting separated from me, so to speak, right? Um, it was like they were being forced not to be around us who were their peers, or they couldn't hang out with us for some strange reason, right? And at first, I didn't get it, right? I didn't understand it. Like I thought a lot of them were just becoming conceited and they wasn't grounded anymore, and that they started feeling themselves thinking they were stars. But then I learned as I went on and became a videographer and then a producer and director, you know, here this is probably the mid 90s when I'm doing the acting thing. So let's just say I don't even remember what year this Eve came out. Let me see. All right, this is 99, right? So this album came out in 99, which means that the video probably was shot maybe 97 or 98, right? I doubt it came out. The video was shot in 99, right? But at this time, I went, I'm shooting at the tunnel at this time, and I'm still doing the modeling and acting at this time. So by the time Eve come out, I got to see Eve when she was, no disrespect to Eve, uh, but she was a stripper leading up into the rapper. So when the rap popped off for us, she didn't have to strip no more. Like I still got pictures of Eve, you know, when she was a stripper with chicks eating her coochie out. Like because back in the days, those pictures, even though the word viral wasn't uh, a thing back then, they were popular. You know what I'm saying? But and that's no diss or disrespect to Eve, because Eve always been cool. She always been grounded. She never had the big head, like some artists I seen, you know, you meet them on their first album, when they first releasing it, and they don't know they gonna blow, and then they blow, and then they get another hit. They get a number one record, or they get a hit record or a hit album, and you see them again, and they act like they don't even know you. Like they became this superstar, and they believe in the hype of it, right? Um, so at a certain stage in the industry, once you become influential and people want your autograph or they're copying your style, you know, then that's where these gatekeepers start tapping you on your shoulder and invite you to be a part of a secret society. Now, many of y'all refer to the secret society as the Illuminati. To me, the Illuminati is a blanket name for all secret societies because it isn't just Illuminati. You know what I'm saying? It to me is the secret society. It Illuminati is a umbrella name for secret societies. You know, AKAs, deltas, uh, sigmas, uh, all those fraternities have secrets. You know, to me, they all fall under that umbrella because they have secrets and they help their own. And it's things that they did to cross to be accepted into this fraternity or sorority that certain people walked away from. You know what I'm saying? Whether they wasn't agreeing with the hazing that was going on or being physically touched by, what was going on, or had to do something that wasn't in their best interest or was against their religion or their beliefs, right? So you will find, certain people like in the movie School Days. If you ever seen a movie called School Days by Spike Lee, then what I'm saying to you will give you a better picture, right? Dudes had to do certain things for them to be down with the fraternity in the movie, which was called Gamma Phi Gamma, right? So, um, and Spike Lee, his character's situation, he was a virgin and he had to sleep with, I think, what's her name? Tisha Campbell character, the one that played Martin's girl on Martin. He had to sleep with her, and then for her, she had a man who was uh Big Brother G5G. Even though she was his girl, she still had to sleep with Shorty or whatever his name was in the movie. And that was her sacrificing her soul, sleeping with a dude to break his virginity so he could become a gamma man, and vice versa, him sleeping with G5G's girl, you know, for him to cross to be a gamma man. You know, it those are just small examples of someone selling a soul, right? Half pint, good looking. That's what his name was. Um, right. So that's just an example, right? But in the entertainment industry, it's a similar thing, right? So, like I said, whether it's Mobb Deep, whether it's Nas, whether it's Little Kim, whether it's Eve, whether it's Olu, whether it's uh Diddy. I've been in Diddy videos. Diddy was in the Hate Me Now joint too. But I did the PE 2000 joint he had. Like I've done so many videos, right? But my point is I came up in this industry with a bunch of these guys. Now, not only the artists, you had, dudes like Mike Kaiser, who worked for Def Jam, who was just, I want to say he might have been a radio promoter in the beginning because I just remember him coming to the tunnel trying to get Flex and Cap to play records to later on go to see him be the president of Atlantic, right? So I seen him when he was like nobody in the corporate realm of the joint, right? Where he just running around with records trying to promote records for the label to him going to be the president of Atlantic, right? To now today, I don't even know where the hell he at because the labels barely even exist as a entity in our culture where they are a factor. The labels are there, but they're not a factor, right? But it was a time where, the labels meant everything. You had to shop your demo to the label to get a record deal. You had dudes that was stand in front of the record label. I remember dudes when I was working at Rockefeller, I would come in and out the building and dudes was standing out there hoping to see Jay-Z or Dame or Irv or Leo or any of these guys so they could rap for them, hoping that they could get a deal. Or they even hounding dudes like me to take their demo and try to get it to somebody in the building, right? So, like I said, over the years, my peers, Eve is my peer. This is her first single right there. I'm right there with her. So I look at it as her peer. I look at Eve as my peer because even though I'm doing the acting thing and she doing the rapping thing, we still coming in together at the same time, right? Um, and I've been in other videos where people weren't successful, but by the grace of God, the Quiet Storm with Little Kim, Mobb Deep joint, it blew up. Eve Got a Man blew up. Um, Nas Hate Me Now blew up. You know, so I was happy that I was a part of songs that became hip hop history, right? And like I said, these are my peers because as I'm coming up, they coming up. So I get into videography, producing, and directing television shows. First I had the public access show on public access TV. Then I had the show on Fox and the WB, and I'm growing as they growing. And then from there, I went to Rockefeller, and then after Rockefeller, I was producing Rap City, which was the longest running hip hop show at that time. When I was producing Rap City, it's been around for, you know, 20 years, 25 years, you know. And when I got to BET, that's when I understand that there was this secret society in the entertainment business. But by now, you know, I had a name when I was doing the tunnel and I was doing the modeling and acting, right? I had a bigger name when I got the Rockefeller in like late 2000, 2001, right? Leaving Rockefeller, going to produce at BET, now I'm producing Rap City. Now, when I'm producing Rap City, if Eve walk in the building, she already know me. You know what I'm saying? If, Cameron walk in the building, he already know me. You know, they all know me from the tunnel. They know me from interviewing them. They know me from the music videos. They know me from Rockefeller. You know what I'm saying? So by the time I get to BET, I'm influential, right? Because people already know me and, you know, I'm inspiring people now to pick up a camera and be a videographer or producer or director. Because even when I was at Rockefeller, nobody was none of them, Cameron, Jay-Z, State Property, Bleak, uh, any of the Dipset dudes had a cameraman. Dame was the only one. They wasn't doing that. And the only reason Dame had one is because I was self-sufficient. I was already doing this, you know, at least 7 years before I met Dame. 6, 7 years before I met Dame. So when he met me, I already had 3 VHS and 4 DVDs out. That's 7 titles. So he was already impressed that I knew how to do all this stuff by myself. So when I got to Rockefeller, he didn't have to tell me to do nothing. I'm telling him what I'm gonna do. You know what I'm saying? And how I can make things better and woo 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 woo. Right. So BET, time I get to BET, right? This is where I learned about what y'all refer to as the Illuminati, right?